I'm from New Orleans, so somebody in your family is born into music, and I happen to be the one. Without a doubt, I can say that way more than a majority of Beethoven is mediocre or bad. A rock store, and they had classical records with the cut in them, which meant they're demos, and he'd sell them for like $3, $5, like doing a drug deal. You got your Herzog.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome to Two Composers, Two Continents, a podcast about our lives in the music industry and the people we meet along the way. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Two Composers, Two Continents with the number 2, and all audio podcast platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a review or a comment. Only nice ones, please.
There you go. Now we've got that out the way, we want to welcome a guest. We have with us the inimitable Jay Weigel.
Yay!
Yay! It's only been 10 years. I don't know.
Something.
Yeah, it's been a while. And forgive me for reading, but I think we should tell people a little bit about your background here, which I shall read out so I don't get it wrong, because I will screw it up.
Oh, fair enough.
So, okay. So, Jay...
Hunker down, because it's a long one here. Yeah.
Jay's a Grammy-winning composer, producer, conductor, arranger, orchestrator, and contractor. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
For film, TV recordings and concerts. And you've been in the industry 40 years. Yeah, I wrote this a while ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago, apparently.
Yeah. But you're also the the chairman of the Nashville chapter of the Society of Composers and Lyricists,
Correct.
Right? Yep. And I mean, you've got such a long catalog that we could take the whole episode just reading it out. But let's just do a little here. You've got 50 films and counting, and numerous Tyler Perry films. And if the audience hasn't seen Tyler Perry stuff, I mean, look it up. It's what a catalog of work that is.
Yeah.
You've written 4 operas.
Yeah.
I love the way you had to. Yeah. Okay. And a vast collection of concert music. And we're also lucky enough to call you a good friend. So this is great. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Great to be
Great.
seeing you guys.
Yeah.
And
I've been seeing a lot of you. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's a joy. Always a joy.
So we should just start with, let's go right back. Where were you? I was going to say, where were you born? But what about the music industry? How did you get into the business? How did it start out?
Well, as you know, I'm from New Orleans, so you're kind of born into music in some way. Somebody in your family is born into music, and I happen to be the one. So, it goes back to first grade, Catholic school band, doing the thing. And then, but in terms of, so you started gigging. I remember my very first gig, I was like 12.
Wow.
This is
What
a real
instrument?
quintessential New Orleans. By then I started on drums.
Okay.
Because they needed a drummer in the band, apparently.
I didn't know you were a drummer. This is great. You find out stuff, right?
Well, I wanted to be a trumpet player like every kid in New Orleans. And I went, a little 5-year-old kid with his lawyer dad going to the band director and, what do you want to be, kid? And I said, I want to play trumpet. He goes, can you do this? And he went, and I went, boom, 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 boom.
He said, you're a drummer.
He told to my dad. After he asked my dad, are you in music? No. He goes, well, your son's a drummer. I'm like, Dad, but I want to play trumpet. He goes, Jay, he's the pro.
He said you're a drummer.
He said, you're a drummer.
He's a drummer.
So off to Salvation Army and bought what would look like the Civil War,
Snare drum.
Revolutionary War drum,
Oh, right.
It was purple. I mean, the whole bit.
Wow.
The whole
Kind of stained purple
Kevin
looking
Costner
thing.
dances with wolves.
Yeah, one of those drums.
Okay.
Wow.
And then I switched schools and became a bass player. And I met a drummer and a guitar player at the school. And I went home and said, Dad, you have to buy me a bass. You're a drummer. I said, no. You changed schools on me. They don't have a band, but I'm making a band. So bass, and then all we could play that first gig was playing the Neil Young Harvest album.
Oh, boy. So this was electric bass. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my upright playing was short-lived.
And what kind of year are we talking here?
I was in 6th grade, so
70s somewhere.
I was born in 59, so
Oh, okay.
I guess it's 70,
Early 70s, yeah.
early 70s. And the pay was, it was the drummer's dad, $20 a piece.
Wow.
And it was for one of his family parties. This is the New Orleans part.
Right.
He had a beer tap on the wall, and you were allowed
Love
to
it.
put your head under it, and he would turn it on, and you could have as much as you could get before you choked.
Oh,
Wow.
my goodness.
That's
This is like
New
every
Orleans.
soccer player from the 90s dream in the UK.
Yeah.
And
like
you
12.
got paid $20.
And I got $20.
This is the dream job.
It certainly helped me make my decision.
So when did you start? When did you get the classical bug and the turn on to all this?
By the time I got into high school, I had become a prog rock freak because the musicianship is so high back then. So, my heroes on bass, originally it's Lee Sklar, it's the guys that are playing with the guys. And then it became, Chris Squire, Stanley Clark, Jocko,
Absolutely.
as I used to say, the more notes, the better. The harder it is to play, the more I wanted to play.
That's why you and David get along so well, I think.
There you go.
Hey. But
I've seen him play.
Yeah, I mean, Stanley Clark.
Right?
I mean, oh, wow.
Yeah. A hero that I couldn't imitate, you know.
Yeah.
So it was through, I got into classical music absolutely through the album Yes Songs. Yes used to open their show. I'd gone to, it's the first concert my folks let me go to that was like with adults, without them, And it was Yes on the 1972-73 tour that became that album.
Really?
And they used to open their I remember the light show was one single light and when they played All Good People and they have that boom, take us, straight and boom, the light would flash on, off, boom. That was like a light show back then.
Wow. Hey, Jean-Michel Jarre time.
Yeah.
Just one.
But they used to open the show by playing this classical piece of music. And then Rick Wakeman would grab the last chord on the mellotron and then modulate into Siberian Khatru. And so when the album came out, I was, back when you could read liner notes, like you're sitting,
good old days.
Yep.
it opened up twice, it was a it was a double album, but it had it folded in twice on itself.
Yep.
And it said that piece was the finale to the Firebird Suite by Igor Stravinsky. And I said, if John Anderson and Chris Squire like Stravinsky, he must be good. So I went and bought the Firebird. And then I listened
And then you thought, he don't play the bass.
No, he didn't. But the Firebird didn't grab me as much. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
But then I bought Petrushka because it said on there,
wow.
he wrote 3 early ballets. And then the second Petrushka album said his teacher was Rimsky-Korsakov. So I went and bought Scheherazade.
Oh, there
And you would go to a store that had, it's a rock store, and they had classical records with the cut in them, which meant they're demos, and he'd sell them for like $3, $5.
So you bought
From behind the
Rimsky-Korsakov?
counter, you got this, like doing a drug deal. You got Scheherazade.
Yeah, I know.
It was that kind of thing.
Yes.
And he'd pull them out and give it to you, and he had all the white album, like all
my goodness.
all the live bootleg concerts he would sell, and they'd just be in plain white covers. And you'd
Bootleg concerts of Rimsky-Korsakov?
No, of Yes and Beatles and all
that's
the
a
rock
shame because I
shows.
was in right there. I mean, I was like, you got the good stuff from the LA Phil back in the day.
Yeah.
But
You got Seiji Ozawa back there, man. So then I heard then after the fourth week was the Rite of Spring.
And then it all changed. Yeah.
Like most people of my generation, right? I mean, you hear the Rite of Spring and you're like, if you have that inclination to write.
My sister was a bassoon player, and I remember her playing the opening to the Rite of Spring. And I don't know whether you're familiar with the opening, very high bassoon line. It's,
Should have been an English horn or an oboe.
It should have been, but actually, no.
No, I mean, the sound he was
Because
going for.
it would sound, if you put it on an English horn, it would sound sonorous and gentle, but actually now it sounds strained.
It's pinched. All that woodwind writing in the first dance is that way.
Yeah, we could nerd out. We could just change this whole discussion. We'll just talk.
Well, I can say it's the first score I ever bought.
Rite of Spring?
Yeah, Boozy and Hawks. My mom had to take me down by Uptown in New Orleans to a store. It was like $50. It was crazy price. Maybe it was $36. It was a lot of money back then.
That's a lot of money.
Wow.
Yeah. It was. I was in college. I told my dad. I said I was in a fraternity because he wanted me. Because you play music. It's easy to do nothing at your college except go to class and then go play music.
Rehearse.
And he wanted me to do something. So I joined a fraternity. And by my second year, I said, Dad, how about this? I want to get out of the fraternity, but can I use the dues you've been paying to start buying scores? Because I knew I wanted to go to a big music. I wanted to go to grad school in music. And my mom, being a painter, she was in full support of me being in the arts.
Yeah.
She was happy.
Yeah.
My dad was terrified. How are you going to earn a living?
Well,
What did he do again?
He was a lawyer.
A lawyer.
I
You
used to
did
go
say
watch
that.
him. Trial lawyer. He was one of the greatest you ever could see. He knew how to talk to people. He knew how to. I remember meeting him for lunch sometimes downtown. And back then, in those days, they had like surface lots that had dudes who parked your car, who probably had a 5th grade education, I guess, and this was their life.
And he would be able to talk to them.
I would see him talking to them in a vocabulary suitable, and then you'd go inside some fancy restaurant, he'd talk to a judge in a different language, a version of English.
That is a skill.
And so when I would see him in court, I'd watch him. I mean, I used to go. I just would go watch him and see. I remember his last trial, my mom called me and said, you got to get down here. Your dad's about to do his last closing argument. And it was malpractice. And I went, and they had sued the hospital, the doctor my dad was defending, and the nurses, of course, which is like suing the hospital because they're on their insurance.
Yeah.
And the dude who's suing him, it was a big deal to beat my dad. So these young lawyers would try to be intellect. And I remember the lawyer, he was saying his closing argument, and I turned to my mom and I said, I have a master's degree. I don't know what he's saying. And then my dad got up, and all you could see all the men in the jury slowly sliding down, starting to nod out.
Oh, God.
And then my dad gets up and says, there was a coach for the New Orleans Saints that said, woulda, coulda, shoulda. And every man sat up and looked at my dad, and I said, heck, he won.
No, it's okay. We're not on network TV.
Well, fuck, he won.
Yeah.
And they go into their little room to talk about the 3 people, and then they come out about 10 minutes, and they ask the judge if they can, do they have to do everyone at once, or can we do them one at a time? He goes, no, you can do one at a time. He said, well, the doctor can go. And my dad packed up, that's what he'd pack that thing up and get out of there. He'd have no more conversation. So from that, I learned about language,
communication,
music, who's your audience, who are you trying to reach. And sometimes I'm trying to reach your people, and sometimes I'm trying to reach me. And so I write in a different language.
That's very interesting. Actually, that brings us to another question then, which is kind of a related point, because we were talking about, because it's so broad and diverse. I mean, we do diverse stuff, and so do you. And your musical language, I mean, you're writing opera, but then you're doing indie film, and the language is completely different. The audience is different. The intonation of what you're trying to say, the linear nature of what you're trying to say. How do you? I mean, obviously, it's an easy thing to say. Well, I learn the language of each, and I just move. But how do you move from such diverse? You know what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Is there a trick?
Yeah. How do you approach? Okay, I'm moving to an indie film where it's this underscore based,
or even some of the stuff you do for the television shows you write for.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
That is completely different kind of just underscore for scenes.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I guess.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you're making conscious decisions all the time about the music and what it's going to be doing. Is there a thought process to that changes? Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, or does it just happen naturally?
Well, when I started, when I got back from grad school, I moved back to New Orleans. I'd come out here to LA for grad school, and I moved back to New Orleans because the vision I had for myself, I had a great mentor named Roger Dickerson. He taught me, he taught Terence Blanchard, he taught the Marsalises, the Two Saints. He taught every piano player playing in the quarter because he was a great jazz player, but he was a classically trained, Fulbright scholar, 2 years in Vienna. So he brought with him the whole tradition of, and I learned the tradition he brought back because his teacher had studied with Hindemith, who had studied with, and it goes back to Beethoven. So I'm in the Beethoven line of composition by studying with Roger. And he taught you things. I remember one time I said, Roger, I'm going to go to grad school and I'm a little insecure about counterpoint. So he started teaching me counterpoint in a method that looked like specious counterpoint. It looked like Fuchs, is that the one? Is that whoever it was?
Yeah.
Fuchs was the famous way of,
Yeah.
whole note against whole note, then the half, et cetera.
Yeah.
But the harmonic language was adjusted to be fourths and fifths were consonant, thirds were dissonant, blah, blah, blah. And so one day I said to him, where did this come from? Where's the book? And he goes, there is no book. And I said, well, where did you get
aural
it?
language.
From my teacher. Well, where did he get it? From Hindemith. Where did he get it? And it went back. This was the stuff Beethoven,
Orally
et cetera,
tradition.
taught their private students. And it was like in the family line. But every generation, the harmonic language changes, so the rules get adjusted based upon the language of the time. And we're going back here to the late 70s, early 80s, where tonal music was more chordal harmony was based on fourths and fifths, not we hadn't gotten to the neo-romantic yet. That was yet to come, the way it's kind of swung back into vogue again. So anyway, so for me, it was when I moved back, I made money writing commercials. And so commercials require, a very broad language, right? And I used to think very much that my composing for concerts, which is how I envisioned myself to be a composer, because Roger was really big on you having a very clear vision for what your life was to look like to keep you moving in that direction. So I never thought of myself as a guy writing commercials or a guy writing films or a guy doing this. I always thought of myself, I'm a composer. And so I used to think very much that what I did for money versus what I did for me in art were very separate entities.
Yeah.
But over time, I learned they weren't, that it was really just a matter of vocabulary. It's really just that to me. It's like, okay, well, I just did a violin concerto, and that ranges from, total lack of tonality to very much I'm more of a postmodernist, probably because I do commercials and TV and I speak these languages. You write these languages.
Yeah, I should say we heard a bit of that. You sent some to us, and we didn't get a chance to speak to you after that. It's
fair enough.
It was lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Really, really beautiful.
So, Hannah Yim played it. She's from out here. She lives in New Orleans. Played it great. I'm very happy with it. I'm going to go in the studio and record that one.
Yeah. It deserves to be recorded.
Yeah, I agree. I told the audience that when I did. I said, look, I've written music for 50 years, and I've written a lot of bad music. This is not one of those.
This is good.
You're
hearing a good night, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what? The law of averages states one of these times, one of these had to work
1 out of 50. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
We joke about that, but I remember my senior year at Tulane, junior year, because I was a music math major for a long time. And I'd gotten to a point in a math class that was just, I wasn't getting it. And I knew by then I wanted to go to grad school, right? So I moved out of my apartment and moved back home for a week. The only exam I had to take was this. It was called multilinear algebra. And
Sounds fun.
It was, it was great. It was like 4 semesters of calculus, then I hit the wall, And so I bought, back in those days, there was some company that would send me this magazine printed on newsprint that was just records, but they were probably all like from European orchestra. There was all like, get every symphonic work of Beethoven in a 25 record box for $19.95, But I don't know the difference between a good conductor and a bad one at this point, So I went home, and all I did when my daddy went to work, 7:30, I would get up and sit at my desk until he came home, and I started on page 1 of that book before trying to pass this math. I had a D-, which was like shocking to me. And I listened to those Beethoven records. I just had my record player and I'd flip them. And without a doubt, I can say that a lot, way more than a majority of Beethoven is mediocre or bad. The only stuff we know, right? The 9 symphonies, brilliance. The violin, brilliant piano concertos. But when you look at the body of what he wrote, like all of us,
That's funny. Yes.
It was good. Like, wow, you can write 800 pieces and have 750 of them be.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't care because he couldn't hear him. But do you know what? That's a really interesting point. That you got to kiss a lot of frogs to get to a prince, right? As the saying.
You're
as the
working your
Nola
craft
saying
out,
goes.
right?
Yeah.
You're just trying to figure it out. You're trying some pieces. You're trying something. You don't know if it's going to work till you hear it and you go, "That didn't really work," but that worked. That happened on the violin piece. Just a simple little thing that was marked quiet. I'm in rehearsals and I'm like, "Whoa!" And I went over to the conductor and the violin. I said, "Look, change of plan here. In these 16 bars, I want that like this like that." It was just. It was like one of those things stuck out.
But it's no different from being, I mean, I don't know this because I've never been it, but from what I'm told, from being a professional athlete, you can't hit perfection unless you're willing to fail.
Yeah.
It's allowing yourself the latitude to say, it's okay to screw this up.
Yeah.
Because you can't get it right unless you get it wrong. You can't. There's no way to know where are the boundaries of what I do.
Yeah, I ran an art center for a long time in New Orleans. It was a multidisciplinary art center. And people get all wigged out of, blah, blah, it's got to be perfect. And I'm always like, look, in the arts, it's not like we're dropping bombs. No one's going to die if it's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, so you get to go for it. If we can, who can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, football is even harder because there's a lot of money at stake.
Well, yeah.
There's teammates at stake. I mean, you drop that pass and you lose the Super Bowl, you might feel terrible, but you've just let down. Whereas I write a mediocre violin concerto or a piano piece or... It's just,
who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah.
I was at a concert the other day and somebody was like, you can buy my CDs in the corner. I'm like, shit, I don't even own a CD player. So, but how are you selling music? I mean, what are you going to cut vinyl? I mean, we cut... I know we gave you a copy of the first vinyl we've ever cut, and that's a New Orleans thing. But I mean, how would you distribute music anyway?
No.
So I mean, what are you doing? Giving out USB sticks and saying
these
stick
days,
this in your computer? And what are you doing?
I know.
So there's no way of making money. I'd like to touch back, if it's okay. You talked about the art center, but you've got a long history in education. I mean, as a teacher.
Yeah.
So can you touch on? Are you teaching as a composing teacher or a film scoring teacher? What's the background here of what you've done?
What you teaching? Yeah.
I started, I got back to New Orleans. I took a job teaching math for 2 years. That's how I got back to New Orleans. High school.
I bet you put them in the corner and said, right, we're starting with calculus and working our way.
Well, what I told them was when they hired me, I will either teach the super slow kids or the super advanced kids. I want no one in the middle because they're just lazy.
Excellent.
I said, but people who need help, I want to help. And people who want to be pushed, I want to push. And so that's what I did. I taught a GP, which was non-college bound kids, and I taught the honors. So it was really, I enjoyed that. Then Roger Dickerson, he retired. He moved from one college to another, and he had taught orchestration and composition at a school of Xavier University, one of the historic. It was the Black Catholic school. Going back to the days when Loyola was for white kids in New Orleans and Xavier was for the black kids in New Orleans. And so Roger recommended me. And so I started teaching in the 80s. About 3 or 4 years after that returned, I started teaching orchestration and composition just to make money because I had left teaching. I was working at that art center, but as the music guy. But this was an alternative art center. They paid you $4,000 a year to do something.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But at a time when full-time teaching at high school was $14,000, so it wasn't ridiculous. It gave me a basis.
It's a part-time job.
But just not enough.
Right. So I was doing commercials, and I would teach. And then Loyola started in New Orleans the first music business program. And it was a great guy, John Schneider. And John had produced hundreds of avant-garde jazz recordings, jazz records, was a jazz trumpet player. So when he came to Loyola, he brought very much an entrepreneurial spirit to this program. And he and I met, and he is got as cutting a sense of humor as I can have. Sarcasm. I think of myself as the Bugs Bunny school of sarcasm. So he and I got along really well, just trashing each other at every possible moment. And he said, "Hey, man, would you be interested in teaching a film scoring class?"
Now, what year are we talking about here? Was this
2008, right after the storm?
Okay.
So this is 2008. So you're talking about this is computer based.
Well, they had computers. So yeah, I had them buy Cubase and I had them buy Native Instruments and set up the studio.
So we're not literally cutting and pasting at this
No,
point?
it's all gone. They're all on Pro Tools, and
Yeah.
so they've already had that side done.
Okay.
But they had a music department teaching traditionally, which I'm all for. I think every composer should do that. And then, but this was purely applying, and so I taught that. Going back to what was drilled into my head when I was a teenager was, as an artist, it's part of your responsibility to pass on, and to help
nice, yeah.
the next generation
Yep.
come up. So.
Yep. Fully in support of that.
So one, I did the Art Center gig because that was putting on other people's concerts, jazz concerts and new music concerts. So you're in service of people, and teaching. I felt the same way. It was a way to be engaged with and to give back something that you should, because who else is gonna?
That was the end of part 1 of our interview with Jay Weigel. Join us next time when Jay continues talking about education and a whole lot of other fun stuff. We'll see you next time for part 2 of the Jay Weigel interview on Two Composers, Two Continents.